Our next speaker is Dr. Neal Barnard. There he is. He says that diet may be as important to brain health as it is to heart and microbiome health. Scientists are now homing in on what the diet ingredients for good mental health are and cognitive staying power. I'll just tell a quick story that might relate to Dr. Barnard's talk. When a Dr. Kim Williams, president of the American College of Cardiology, was asked why he ate a strictly plant-based diet, he said, "I don't mind dying, but I don't want it to be my fault." So.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and appreciate being included. When we look in the brain of a person who has Alzheimer's disease, we see some things that don't belong there. We see these sort of meatball-looking things called beta amyloid plaques. And where they're coming from is that brain cells squeeze out protein strands, as we heard in an earlier presentation, and as they're squishing out of the cells, they collect in these beta amyloid plaques, just like an old-fashioned sausage maker cranking out the protein that collects in meatballs. Those are in your brain. They're microscopic. We don't want them to be there, and they're one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. So the question is, how do they get there, and what can I do to stop them from forming in my brain? And there is a lot that you can do, and I want to share this with you. What is this? This is Chicago. 1993, the Chicago Health and Aging Project got started. And what they did is they brought a large group of people together, and they tracked what they ate. And then they looked at who stayed mentally clear and who did not. And the first thing that they keyed in on was something that I knew a lot about as a kid growing up in Fargo, North Dakota. Anybody been there? Seen the movie? That's my mom in that movie. Anyway, my mom had 5 kids. We would smell the bacon in the morning. We'd come down, and my mother would be taking a fork and pulling the bacon out of the pan and putting it on a paper towel to cool down. And then that leftover grease was not something you want to throw away. That's good bacon grease. So my mother would take the frying pan and carefully lift it up and pour the grease into a jar to save it. Did your mom do that? Now, the jar did not go into the refrigerator. She just put it on the shelf because she knew that when bacon grease cools down, what happens to it? It solidifies. And the fact that it is solid at room temperature is a sign that it's loaded with something called saturated fat, commonly called bad fat. The number 1 source of it is actually cheese and other dairy products. Meat is number 2, and Americans eat lots of it. And in Chicago, some people eat relatively little, and some people eat a lot. And the question is, does it matter? And so here are the numbers from the Chicago Health and Aging Project. Those are the people who ate relatively little saturated fat with regard to their risk of developing Alzheimer's. These are the people eating a lot of saturated fat. 2 to 3-fold or even more difference. Okay, so where are we getting it from? Okay, if I have 2 eggs, that's 3 grams. If I have a strip of bacon, that's another gram. And do you know anyone who has a strip of bacon? A chicken thigh without the skin, 4.5 grams. A glass of whole milk, another 4.5 grams. Pizza for 1 to 12 grams. These are things that people eat all the time. But if I add up just that much, I'm already in the high-risk group, according to the Chicago data. Now, there's a stage before this called mild cognitive impairment. You're still yourself. You might be driving, you can handle your checkbook, but you're forgetting words and names a lot. Who was that actor in that movie? This will happen to all of us from time to time, but if it's happening every day throughout the day, mild cognitive impairment. So researchers in Finland said, okay, some people eat relatively little saturated fat, some people eat a lot. Let's look at their risks. They started when they were 50, and they looked over the next 21 years, and here's what they found. Okay, so exactly the same thing. It's not just a question of whether bad fat puts you at risk for Alzheimer's. It puts you at risk for just memory, fuzzy stuff in older age. Now, there is a gene that you have heard of, the ApoE epsilon 4 allele. If you got it from one parent, your risk of Alzheimer's is tripled. If you got it from both, your risk is 15 times higher. So what if we focus just on the people who have that gene? Some of them eat relatively little fat, some eat a lot, and there's the difference. Even if you have the gene, if you follow a healthier diet, your risk changes. Genes are not destiny. There are what I call dictator genes. You're going to have blue eyes. That gene gave orders, you're going to have it. The Alzheimer's genes are more like committees. They make suggestions. They're like diabetes genes. There are all kinds of genes for type 2 diabetes. But if you don't eat in a certain way, you can really dramatically reduce your likelihood of ever developing type 2 diabetes. There are cancer genes that are committees too. They turn on, they turn off certain things, cause them to express. And that's the way to think about these things. Genes are not destiny. Okay, oh, what's this? There's fat in that too. What's the fat called? Trans fats, that's right. Some people in Chicago know what a donut is, and some people are less familiar. So the people who eat a lot of trans fats, let's look at them. Okay, these are the people who don't eat too much trans fats. This is their Alzheimer's risk in the course of the study. Those are the big donut eaters. Okay, 5-fold increase. All we're doing with these research studies is starting to add up things. Okay, let me avoid that bad fat. Maybe I don't need the cheese today. Let me skip the trans fats. Okay, why? We don't know for sure, but researchers at Kaiser Permanente said it could be cholesterol. Trans fats and animal fats, saturated fat, increased cholesterol. And the Kaiser researchers brought in about 10,000 people. They got their blood tests done, they tracked their cholesterol, and then they looked at who developed Alzheimer's, and you see it goes right up. If you're in the high cholesterol group, your Alzheimer's risk is high, low cholesterol, low risk. Something about cholesterol causes either the elaboration of beta amyloid in the brain or the production of the plaques or something else. But there is something about cholesterol going on. And what that has opened the door is anything that's good for your heart, exercise, not smoking, is good for the brain. We put it together, okay? All right, so let's say I live in Chicago, I'm eating all this stuff, and I'm at high risk. I forgot to tell you. In the Kaiser study, the cholesterol levels they selected were when they were 40 years old. In other words, start now. This is the time to change our diet. Okay, I live in Chicago. I'm eating a bad diet. I'm at high risk. Can I change my diet? Can I? Of course I can. Let's see. Here's an easy one. I'm going to get rid of that milk and have almond milk. Who's tasted almond milk? Is it okay? Yeah. Tastes all right? Okay, 0 saturated fat. And if the statistics in Chicago apply to me, I just cut my risk. Is there some more that I can do? Okay, let's see. I'm going to get rid of that bacon. I'll have veggie bacon, which is sort of a liberal interpretation of the original. Out with the eggs. We're going to have oatmeal with blueberries and strawberries. Get rid of the chicken. I'm going to have a vegetable sandwich. How am I doing? I'm doing better. Is there something else I can do? Pizza? Can I get pizza without cheese? Of course you can. There it goes. Let's see how I do. Well, I don't know, because nobody in Chicago eats that well. Now, there are some places, Tony was telling you about the blue zones. In Loma Linda, California, there are some people who have the bad judgment to continue to eat meat. And when you look at them, their cognitive decline continues apace, but there are lots of vegetarians and vegans there as well. And this is the vegetarians. Their cognitive decline is considerably slower. Now, these might be the cheese-eating vegetarians. I am going to suggest that if you throw that out, you're going to do better still. Okay, what else is in those plaques? Well, if I dissect these plaques, you find that, yes, there's amyloid protein, there's cholesterol. There's also iron and copper. And if you take a cast iron pan, and we're having a backyard barbecue, and a week later I think, oh, forgot to bring the pan inside. It rained last week. What happened to my pan? It rusted. Rust is oxidation. I have a nice new penny. And as the years go by, does it stay bright and shiny? No, it oxidizes. Oxidation of iron and copper produces free radicals in your body. So you need a little bit of iron, you need a little bit of copper, but the more you have, the more free radicals form. They are like sparks tearing through your skin, causing aging, and tearing through the connections from one brain cell to the next. So where am I getting all this iron and all this copper? How many have a cast iron pan? If you're using it once a month, no, who cares? If it's every day, you're getting too much iron. Copper pipes? Okay, the copper leaches into the water, and you fill your coffee maker with it, and there you go. Meat eating, liver is the mother lode of iron and copper. Vitamin supplements, they're fine if they deliver vitamins only. There should not be any minerals in them because you need a little bit of iron, a little bit of copper. You're getting it from food. You don't need it from pills. And these manufacturers are 20 years behind the times. So what I am suggesting is that not only the saturated fat and the trans fats, but the free radical attack from oxidizing metals in your body right now as you're hearing me talk, there's a way to shut that off. If it's these sparking free radicals, we need a fire extinguisher, and we have it. It's called vitamin E. And vitamin E is in lots of things, especially the nuts and seeds. And in Chicago, some people eat relatively little vitamin E. These are people neglecting their walnuts. And there are some people who eat a lot of them. And if my theory is correct, that free radicals play a role, then the people eating the most vitamin E should be protected to a degree against getting Alzheimer's, and I want to show you the numbers. Here's the risk of Alzheimer's. Okay, exactly the same. So all we're doing is we're just adding up things that I don't have to wait. I can do these right now, today, at lunch. Avoid the bad fats. Be careful about the metals. Bring in the vitamin E-rich foods. Which ones, by the way, are they? Broccoli, spinach, sweet potatoes have some, but the nuts have a lot more. And very important, do not buy vitamin E pills. No, but here's why. Nature has 8 different forms of vitamin E. A pill may have 1 or 2. If you take too much of one, your body's absorption of the others is diminished. And nature had a balance that we've evolved with for a really long time, and that's what we should take advantage of. In the Chicago study, 8 milligrams a day was what did the trick. If you pour some sunflower seeds or crushed nuts into the palm of your hand, by the time it hits your fingers, that's about an ounce, and that'll give you about 5 milligrams of vitamin E. Oh, by the way, don't eat them, because if you do, you'll fill your hand again, and there is something, am I the only one? If I have a bag of cashews, there must be heroin in them. I eat the whole thing. So what you should do is crumble them up and put them on your salad. Use them as an ingredient, not as a primary food source. So, okay, we're talking about avoiding the bad fats, eating lots of healthy vegetables and fruits. Sounds Mediterranean, doesn't it? And in Mediterranean countries, they also will drink wine, as Tony was telling you. And some people have said maybe that's why they're healthy. When I was in college, some of my roommates felt they were following the Mediterranean regimen, I think. However, alcohol has risks. Alcohol increases breast cancer risk. If you didn't know that, please pay attention and write this down. 1 drink, if it's every day, measurably increases the risk of breast cancer. So researchers said, well, maybe it isn't the alcohol that is helping in Alzheimer's. Maybe it's the grape. And so researchers at the University of Cincinnati tested this stuff. They brought in a group of people already having forgetfulness, average age 78, asked them to have a pint a day of grape juice. Say a cup in the morning, cup at night, and they showed their learning was better and their recall was better over a 3-month period. Wait a minute. Too easy. How's that happen? Well, think about it. A grape has a rough life. It's sitting on the vine all day long, exposed to the sun and all the elements. It has no protection. Or does it? That purple color comes from what are called anthocyanins. And those are powerful antioxidants. Hey, wait a minute. It's not just grapes. There's all kinds of things that have antioxidants. Let's go back in the lab. Let's test blueberries. And they brought in a new group of people, found exactly the same result. So the moral of the story is not that we should be eating blueberries, although that's a good idea. What we should be doing is thinking about color and what it means. If you go into the grocery store, at 100 yards, you can detect beta-carotene. That's the orange color of a carrot. Lycopene is the red color of a tomato. And the anthocyanins are deep purple. And, oh, aren't they pretty? Wait a minute. Nature over time cause the human retina to evolve in order to be able to detect them, and the brain then values them. There is nobody who ever said, what an ugly carrot. We always think, how pretty. And that's because the people who ate these things and liked them and could detect them survived. Now, your cat is a carnivore. Your cat is not interested in that. Your cat does not have the same color vision that you do. Your cat is looking at motion. So if your cat sees a mouse somewhere, your cat is off. But the human retina evolved, and nowadays we take those same colors and put them in an M&M's bag, and our kids are using their color vision for that reason. But if we remember these foods, they will help us, okay? By the way, I said get away from bad fats. Are there extra benefits from that? Well, yes, this will be on the test. A gram of fat has 9 calories. A gram of carbohydrate has only 4, whether it's from rice or potatoes or pasta or anything. So if we're getting away from the fats, we're skipping a lot of calories. This is a man named Jean Remy who sent me these pictures because he was in Canada. He had prediabetes and a serious weight problem. And he read a book that I wrote about diabetes that said, do a plant-based diet, throw out the animal products completely, keep oils low. And by the time he got to chapter 4, he'd lost 160 pounds. That's what happens when you follow a healthy plant-based diet. This is Jen, same kind of story. She went on a plant-based diet just to lose weight, but she gets her confidence back, gets her health back. Do I need supplements? B12 should be supplemented. I'd be glad to tell you more about why. And by the way, not just for vegans, I think everybody ought to take a B12 supplement. You need it for healthy nerves and healthy blood. Vitamin D you don't need if you're getting regular sunlight. If you're indoors or using a sunscreen, you should take vitamin D. Those are the only 2 supplements I recommend. Okay. Exercise is part of this too. At the University of Illinois, researchers brought in a group of people and had them exercising 3 days a week, just a brisk walk, and it reversed brain shrinkage, and it improved memory. So I have my own exercise plan. I go to the airport as late as possible, carry massively heavy luggage, run for the plane. I do that 3 times a week. In the University of Illinois, what they did is a 10-minute brisk walk, increased by 5 minutes every week. So it's 15 the next week, 20 minutes the next week. Once you get to 40-minute brisk walk, that's it. That's the regimen, okay? So back to the power plate. In 2009, we offered this to the US government to replace the pyramid, throwing out the meat group and the dairy group. We didn't hear back from them. So I filed suit against the US government at federal district court to compel response. And in 2011, the US government came out with this, which they call My Plate. And for the first time in American history, there is no meat group, period. There's a protein group, which could include meat, but it can also include beans and tofu and healthy things that you don't have to be embarrassed about. There's a dairy group, but to their credit, it includes soy milk. So by now you're saying, all right, I get it. If I were following a vegan diet, I'd be healthier, the animals would thank me more, and our earth would breathe easier, but how could I ever do that? And so in my last minute, I'm just going to show you how we do this. When patients come into our center, we say, take a week and just check out the possibilities. What could I eat? Okay, I guess I could have spinach lasagna instead of the meat variety or whatever. And so they make a list of breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and they figure out what they would like. And we give them lots and lots of choices of things. If they're at an Italian restaurant, they're more than happy to give them healthy foods, or a Mexican restaurant or whatever. They're just figuring it out. And Taco Bell is not the pinnacle of culinary art, but they'll be able to figure out what they can eat there. Then they come back in, and I ask them to go vegan for 3 weeks. Oh, I thought I had to do this forever. 3 weeks, and during that period of time, they're learning new tricks, their tastes are adjusting, and afterwards they've lost so much weight and they're feeling great, they say, can I do it for another 3 weeks? And so we're focused on short term, and it gets really easy. If any of you would like to try this, we have a 21-day vegan kickstart. It's free. There is no sponsorship. We're not selling you anything. Go to pcrm.org. The next one is starting at the beginning of August. It's in English, Spanish, Mandarin, and one for people from the Indian subcontinent, and a new one from Japan. Alzheimer's is an epidemic. This is a bad thing, but we can protect ourselves and most importantly, protect our children. And the only way to do that is to have fun. Play with healthy foods, find new websites, new products, new restaurants, new recipes, share them around, make some noise. Let's beat this epidemic. Thank you very much.